I'm on mute. Thank you. Why was that even muted? That's crazy. Alright, friends. I'm so sorry. It crashed on me. It was not a blue screen of death, though, which is good. It was, not BattleNet. No, NetBeans. Net. Oh, yeah, Net. Net is in BattleNet. I see. I gotcha. No, we're not playing Overwatch right now. Don't need BattleNet. How about you end the task, BattleNet? Go away. Go away. Go away. Alright. NetBeans, come on back. XAMP, come on back. We had just successfully got a bill. We were going to try and update a new bill, and it was actually OBS that just blocked. It said there was an error with encoding, and then just everything locked up. So it was really funny. Usually, like, you push and hold the power button for, 10 seconds, and it hard shuts off. I did that, and the little indicator light on the webcam stayed on, which I thought was really weird. So I tried to turn it back on, and nothing happened. I had to hold it down for another, 10 seconds before it actually shut down. So it just sort of thought it shut down. Super weird. Alright, we'll see if we can get going back up here again. Sorry about that. Happy July. Happy July. Oh, goodness. Alright. So we were going to check out the page here and see if we had the bill. We're going to list bills as well. Maybe we need to get good information there. Yeah, let's restore. What do we have here? All good. Here's the PHP MyAdmin, enrollment page. There we go. Life is good. We're good. And hopefully that was going to update our bill instead of add to it, was the goal. Let's see if we can get any of this to load here. Right, and then we also needed our bill controller here. So we'll do this as bill. I don't know, we did plural for everything else, so why not bills? And this will be our bill controller. Come on, friend. There we go. Look at bills, right? Yeah, our bill is now $800. Look at that. So it successfully added another $400 when we enrolled in a 4-credit course. Looking pretty good. So now we need a way to pay the bill. All right, so our bill controller here. Cool, cool, cool. Let's use, I don't know, let's grab all of this for now. Can always update it later. All right, so we need the database model, we need the bills model, we need our action. If there is no action, we'll assume it's list bills. And if the action is list bills, then bills will be list bills. Right, we have list bills in the bill model. We can just get all of them. Cool. Now the problem is this is not giving us by student name, right? We wanted to have where to list our bills out. Oh, that one doesn't say. Was it in here? Someone was asking me about it. List bills, bill payment. Okay, so sure, never mind then. So we're good. We'll just do a regular list bills. You only have the student ID, which is not great, so we'll need a way to figure that out later, but that's okay. And then we can come back to these other ones later. We're not going to do any of those other actions, so we'll come back to them. So we just want to get lists to work. So we'll go to a bills view, make that bills view, and let's borrow someone else's view, right? Let's how about the enrollment view? Let's do that. We'll go to our bills view, throw this in here. This is bills list. We're not filtering by any grades here. We have an ID, we have a student ID, and we have the total due. Then for bills, as individual bill, as we go, right? Bill, we'll echo the bill ID, the bill student ID, and the bill total due. right? So we don't need the enrollment section here. We'll give an ID, a student ID, and the total due, and we'll end that for each. We don't need the filter here. We don't need a filter. We don't need to be able to add a bill, right? Because that sort of happens automatically, so we don't need to add. How about an update bill? Sure, we could update a bill with an ID, student ID, and a total due. Again, that's not exactly how it's going to work, and we're going to fix this up a little bit later here, but this ought to work here. And make sure these go to the bills page. That's important. This is bills PHP. Bills PHP. Make sure we're posting to the right direction. Here, for delete bill. This is delete bill. Don't you wish there was a delete button for your bills? How cool would that be? Alright, let's update bill and update bill. Again, we're going to fix these up here because it's not exactly what we're doing in the bills page. But I just want to see, can we get this one to load here? And then in our navigation, we need to go add that. And we were doing these alphabetically, right? So bills would come up here. Bills, well, maybe not, I don't know. The other ones were kind of alphabetic. Let's see if we can get it to load. See if we can get a list of bills. Oh, I forgot to change it here. That should say bills. There we go, bills. Uh-oh. For each, must be a type, course view on line 17. So what do we do wrong here? On our course, oh, we're including the wrong page. In the bills controller, we should include the bills view, not the course view. How about that? There we go. Bill, student ID, total due. Looking good. Update, delete. Again, we'll fix that up here in a minute. But so far, we're able to list, right? List all the bills using our MVC model. We're going to also add option lists in a minute. So we want to have, then, is an option list for student, showing the student's name, a text box for payment amount, radio box for type of credit card, and a box for the credit card number. We're going to update the outstanding balance, reduce the payment by the amount for that student. Whew. Okay, so instead of update bill, then, here in our bills view, we want to have an option list for students. So we're going to take this course option list, and we're going to copy it. Not that, no. What did I do here? I want to take this whole page here, copy, and paste. This will be my student option list. This label will be student. It'll have a select for student ID. And then for student, as student, individual student, we're going to grab the student ID. We're going to grab their student. Type ahead is not helpful. All right, so student has a name. What else do we have in a student? I think all I said was name would be fine, but we can include that other info too. Might as well. You had what? Name, email address, and major? That's right. Name, email address, and major or something. Maybe we also want to include the ID, right? Because we're not putting name anywhere else. And we could say like ID. Oh, no. We got to echo ID. Append in there. Can we use the fancy strings? I think we can use the fancy strings. No, we can't. Maybe, is it the double strings? Is that what it is that's fancy? It does the interpolation for us? No. Never mind. Forget that. Concatenate them together. ID, name, I don't know, we could add in a bunch of these if we wanted. Name, email, major. I don't know, maybe we don't need email and major, maybe just name and ID. How about that? Just include ID and name. Okay, for given students, so then we need to be able to get all of our students back out, right? So our student model has a way to list students, great. We can do it by name if we want. Where name equals name, that's individual students. Let's see, so if name is not null, we do that, otherwise you do all of them. Okay, so we can just call list students and give it nothing for a name. So then my bills view, the bills controller, we'll need to give it the students list. Students will be list students here. And then we should be able to use that option list in our view, so our bills view. Then, so instead of an update, we want to, I mean, we're still going to update, but it's really, this is going to be like pay bill. So we want to have then that view model. So we had that course option list. We did that in our section view. Right, so we're just going to include that option list. Include the student option list. So we don't need the student ID, the student name, or the total due. Right, as inputs, we need a payment here, right? Total payment. That'll be payment. And then we need a couple other things, right? We want it to have a radio box for type of credit card. So we're going to add the radio option here. So we'll have an input type equals radio. Right? Where do we do those? Let me just go look that up here again, because I'm always going to go copy paste because I'm lazy. Let's look up our radio options. Here we go. There. Cool. So this is, I don't know, payment type, I guess. Payment type. Again, we're not actually going to use this value. You would store this sort of thing if we're actually storing transactions, but that, again, that's probably a little harder than we actually cared to have. And a Visa, MasterCard, Amex, American Express, sure. Visa, MasterCard, American Express. Right, for different inputs. Okay, and then this was going to be, what, for pay bill, right? We're going to have another text box in here as well. So we're going to have for card number, right? Text box for the payment amount, radio for the card type, box for credit card number, and then we'll update that bill. Right, so it'll have held to bills, and then there'll be a pay bill action here. Well, let's just see if we can see that on our page here then, right? Let's update. Uh-oh, it's not called course. That's right. So that is, where's our model? Student list. That should be student. And then, oh, we didn't change that. What did I change? I changed the wrong one, friends. All right, so this one is student. This needs to go inside of here. This one is course. This one needs to go back inside of here. That should be course. All right, how's that? That ought to work better. All right, still not updating though, so what's wrong? So for each students, are we getting the students out of our bill? Students. List students. Oh, we didn't include the students model. Require the students model. The student model. There we go. Then we get Eric and John for students. Right, so we look at students, we have Eric and John. We go to our bills, we can see Eric and John, a total payment. Our probably need some more new lines in here then, right? So go to our bill view. Add some line breaks there. Add some there. How's that look? Cool. So sure, I want to make a payment. We'll pay $800 on a MasterCard, card number 12341234. Pay the bill. We went to bills. We posted an action, but we didn't actually do anything yet. So now in our bills controller, we need to go do something with that. So we had a pay bill. Right. So for pay bill, then this will send us back to bills.php. We're going to, what do we have in our bills model? We're going to add or update a bill for a given student ID, right? That ought to work. So when someone pays us, sure, they should be able to know how much they're paying. So we'll have the student ID, and we'll have the total payment there, right, from our view. We're going to have payment, and we're going to have student ID from our student option list, right? That'll be the value, student ID, right? So student ID. So my bills controller then will get the student ID is from my input post, the student ID. Student ID, and that should be an int, right? I'm going to pass it in as an integer. And then we'll have a total, or a payment, right? And again, we'll get the payment out. Probably validating as an integer. Again, we're just doing whole numbers. And now we can do something silly here. We can call our add or update bill if we want here with the student ID and the payment times -1. Right? If we want to decrease the bill, we just make that a negative number. Right? So let's go back. So we got a bill of 800 here, so I'm going to pay my bill. Oh, did not update it. Shoot. Add or update. Something didn't go through right. Let's see. Add or update bill. Should have found it. Should have gotten the bill for that student. Should have gotten the total due. Update bill. Should have set it to 0. What didn't happen right? Add or update bill, we went back to bill. Let's make sure we're passing the right parameters here. Pay 800, 234. Let's take a look at our network requests and make sure we're going to keep all of it. We're going to persist the logs here. So let's pay that bill. So we sent a post to bills.php. Our request was student ID 1, payment 800, pay bill. We should have hit pay bill, got a student and a payment. Oh, we wanted student ID. That's right, student ID. We didn't pass it a good student ID. So didn't have a value there, so it probably failed. Because remember, our controller says, hey, if you don't give me a student ID, we just don't do it. If it's 0, it fails. Try that one more time. There we go. So now we'll try an 800 payment, American Express. Oh, so we posted student ID 1, 800, American Express, action pay bill. Still didn't pay the bill. Bills. 800. I don't know, let's try and debug. Let's see what's happening here when we try and pay our bill. So that should go to the bills controller. It should be pay bill. Add or update bill. Student ID and payment. We should be able to get a student ID and a payment. Student ID, did I spell that right? I don't know. We'll put a breakpoint in here. Breakpoint. Run in the debug mode. I want to continue. We only care about our bills controller here. Put our breakpoint in. There it goes. Now let's go to bills, and we'll continue. It's fine. All right, we'll pay for Eric, 800. Card numbers don't matter. All right, here we go. Now we're going to step. We got our action, right? Our action should be pay bill here, right? Pay bill, good. Does not list. Action is pay bill. We're going to get the student ID out. Let's see, so student ID is 1, good. Payment is 800, looking good. So we're going to add our update bill. So let's step into our add or update bill. There you go. Student ID is 1. Total due, -800. Looking good so far. So select from bills, where that student's there. Fetch. Size is not 0, so total due then is going to be a new value. So 800 is now down to 0. Update bill. Update bill. We were checking to see if payment was 0. So we're telling it to update the payment to 0. So we want to not check for that. So I guess that will be a valid value here. As long as it gives me a student, we'll accept that. Okay, that ought to fix that for us. Or really, I guess we could even delete the bill at that point. if we've paid it all off. Would that make sense? I like that. Let's go back. Let's leave that there. Total due is fine. Let's check in here then. So when we add or update our bill, let's see if total due is equal to 0. We're going to call delete bill instead, given that. So if you pay it all off, we'll delete it. Otherwise, we'll go update your bill. So you can do a partial payment, right? How's that sound? We go to bills. So I should be able to pay like $500 off, right? Card number doesn't matter. Pay it. Now we're down to $300. Great. So if we pay it all off, it should get deleted. Look at that. It worked. Now the silly thing though, we can like add, we could pay for someone who doesn't have a bill and they're going to have a negative bill. But sure, that's fine. Again, you know, that sort of checking would be good to do, but that's a little bit beyond what we want to tackle right now for a silly little 2-week project. All right, how you folks feeling? Oh my goodness, it's 7:15 already. We've not even converted the rest of our option lists. The delete, oh, that should be delete bill. My goodness, my bill view. We have delete bill. We want to have a bill option list, right? Instead of having to give me an ID, I want to use an option list of the bills. That's sort of, we wanted to convert the rest of the updates and deletes to using the option list instead of asking for the ID. So instead of them typing the ID, we're going to give them an option list. So we have to go build option lists for each of those. That is relatively quick. Do you want to spend the time on that, or do you want to skip that for now? Now we're running short on time already. Sorry, that unnecessary reboot kind of bit into some of our time. Does anyone have an opinion? Do you want to see the option lists? Are you good with that? Ready for new stuff? Or what? Okay. Yeah, the option lists aren't too bad. Cool. Sticks and Dusty, you agree? All right. All right, do you want to take a break then? I've been talking for a while. Take a little break, or did you have enough of a break while I was rebooting? Hard reboot. So actually, I did find out the hard way. Restarting Windows is not the same as shutting down. It likes to keep a couple things around in a restart to save you time, to be your friend. You got it, one. You got it. I gotta grab, where did those all go here? I just got a new phone, and I'm so confused on how to use it. Like, it's just different enough. I had to relog into everything. It was awful. Had a bunch of really good dad jokes that I saved. I need to like catalog them better though, I think, is my problem. It just goes into all of them. Yeah. So I was you know, my kids love to do silly little kid songs. My 6-year-old especially loves the Hokey Pokey. You know, he would do it all the time, and I was starting to worry that like he was getting addicted to the song, but you know, it turns out he ended up okay because he was able to turn himself around. All right, so we'll just power through then, no break. We can do that. All right, so let me open up our old project here, the Hello World Java. This one ought to work for us now because life should be good. All right, so what we get here in the Hello World, let me close this other one here, and I will commit that before I forget, because I forgot last time. We'll say Project 3 mostly done. Mostly done. 3 mostly done. Hey, thanks for following along, Dewey's Big Adventure. Man, I haven't heard of that show in a long time. I am old enough to remember that show on TV. All right, so what we got here is our index.jsp. So a JSP is a Java server page, very similar to PHP, which is also something page. Really should remember what PHP stands for. So JSP is very similar. You get different style comments here. This is a JSP comment. with the %, and then you're able to inject Java code inside of code blocks, which is really cool. So this is the little page tag. That's not very exciting. We'll see when we run our project. It should go and start up Apache for me, because I told it where my Apache server was, or my Tomcat server, I'm sorry. It has its own little starting Tomcat, and you can see all the logs happening here. It starts up. Remember, Tomcat by default runs on port 8080, which is usually open. Test and test should be fine. Yes, and we get hello world. So this path here, hello world Java, is a little crazy how this all happens. So one of the fun things with servlets, let me go find my XAMPP directory. Now this is in the Tomcat directory. So Tomcat, right, is the web server. It has a web apps directory. In web apps, we get all sorts of, this is where our programs run. So they have all these built-in examples here. If we just go right to localhost 8080, we get its default page. We're getting to the Hello World Java. So there's a mapping that's happening behind the scenes here. That's in our no, not the config. Yeah, config. At the web. No, it didn't add it. Where did it add it? Yeah, it was in web apps. Should be in root. Oh goodness, that view is awful. We want details, please. There's a web XML page. Hey, Imperium, awesome. Glad to have you along. So you get some description and you get display mappings here. So in our project, we'll see there's this web. Oh, where did it go in here? No. Did it not load everything for me? It didn't load everything for me. Config, here we go. Web fragment. Context, no. Here we go. So we're mapping our path for Hello World Java in our context. Oh, we didn't even add a servlet. Oh, my goodness. Same one. That's fine. So this is our Hello World. The title is JSP page. So when a servlet lands, right, when you go to the root of a servlet, we have an index JSP. That's what it's trying to hit. So it's automatically mapping that for us. We're going to go add a new servlet here. This is Hello World. And we want it to be in a package for Hello World. So it likes packages. Default packages are funny. So here we go. So we're going to add our information. So we're going to add this mapping for Hello World. What do we call it? We called it Hello World Java. That's right. So let's go back. Hello World Java to a Hello World Java. Just make everything match nice. I'm going to add the information to a web XML descriptor. Now we get our web XML. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. So this mapping behind the scenes is what Tomcat does. It says, hey, here's the servlet name. Here's the class that runs. Here's the URL that Tomcat's going to look for. If it finds it, go find this servlet by name. So like you have a servlet mapping to a servlet here. Okay, and then you also have a session timeout. Don't worry too much about that. But so all of this mapping stuff happens behind the scenes. So we still get our Hello World, our JSP page, right? We don't have anything in it, so it's just giving us our JSP page. Servlets are really neat. What's it? Hello World Java, right? Hello World Java? / Hello World Java? And run that one more time. Hello World Java. No, still giving me that one. So the servlet, this is essentially what PHP was doing behind the scenes, but we get to see all the ugly Java-ness of it. So when you hit a servlet class based on this web XML. We're going to try and find the Hello World Java servlet, which is Hello World Java.Hello World Java. That's the class that's going to get compiled. You get compiled Java code. It's going to go run this process request. And what you do with the process request, you get a servlet request and you get a servlet response. So the response, we're calling a print writer called out using the response get writer. You can literally out HTML inside of Java code. And then we'll get sent back as the response. So you can get stuff from the request, you can get all your request parameters out, and you can get the response you can write to it. So this is our process request, and we actually have two different ones. We get a get and we get a post. You can do your gets and posts separately. You can handle them differently. In our case, we're just handing both the posts here to process request. So post will process request, get will process request. So that way the same thing happens whether or not you're getting or posting to your page. So we can change that if we want. They don't both have to do the same thing. And we are going to get our servlet here. So we should be able to go hit it. I think it's confused. Should not be getting the JSP page at that point. We're getting the default Hello World Java. I think it's inside the package. One more time. Let's run it. I think we want Hello World Java. There we go. So it's all setting everything up inside of the Hello World Java path here. And that by default is getting us the index JSP. Just like any other index page, it's the auto load. If we go to the servlet here, we get the servlet Hello World Java at /Hello World Java. This is where this one lives. So we can give it some, here's some get, or question, hi, I don't know, some parameter, hi. So we can go get this parameter out from the request. So we'll put that in before we finish the body here. So we'll say, here's a string for parameter, it's request dot. Now we get all sorts of cool methods right in Java from out of here. Right? All the different things we want to do in our... Anything you can do in Java, you can do in a servlet, essentially. And you just spit out the HTML that you want here. So we need to... Where are we getting it? Get our query string. How about that? And then we'll out.println, print line, query string, plus the parameter. And we'll give that a refresh. We see, hey, here's the query string. Some parameter equals hi. That's the entire query string that was passed in here, right? We can add in more things. We can add in ands. Right? We're just getting it all right back out. So we can get the query string and start getting parameters out. And that's going to work whether or not we get or post with our servlets. So again, depending on what you want to do, you don't have to do both a get and a post with the same process request, but you can if you want. It doesn't matter too much. Outputting all of this stuff by hand in Java, doing outprint lines for all the HTML, raw HTML, is terrible. That's why we have Java server pages. That here's the pretty looking HTML, and then we can run Java code inside of that. So unfortunately, with our current schedule, we only wanted to talk about servlets today, and next week we're going to get to Java server pages. So for the project 4, you can do it all with a servlet if you want to skip Java server pages, the JSPs. Life will probably be a little easier if you want to use the JSP. But either way will work. We just are either going to print line a bunch of HTML, or we actually have a little JSP that we can go include. And we'll talk more about that next week, right, for the actual JSP themselves, the pages. Okay. Now this is all in a try block in case something funky happens, right? We just automatically close the output stream just midway if an exception happens. That's perfectly fine. We don't need all that template stuff here. Don't need that. Yeah, so a servlet exception if something happens in the servlet, an IO exception if we can't push the data. Because this is all over the network. This HTTP servlet response is happening over the network. If we're trying to give you back some data, something bad can happen if we lose that connection. So don't worry too much about it. It's usually decent, but stuff can happen. All right, now we'll see, right, in our web XML as well, in our config file, we see this mapping happening. So we see it in the project, and we see it in the config files. And we should see in our Tomcat, where did I put it now? I put it right in root. I don't think I put it in root. Where's it running from? Let's see. It's deploying it. Let's see. Hello world. Reloading context. Oh. It looks like I didn't even have to deploy it, which is nice. We're able to just run it from where we are, which is super handy. But this is our basic hello world. Right, if it wasn't running for you, let me know. Again, I had to update to 12.4, the latest and greatest Apache NetBeans, to get away from the error we were getting before. And it should, when you hit run, it should just take you right to your... It should start up Tomcat if it's not already running. Hello world Java. Let's see. Should all be, yeah, web.inf. Yeah, here's our context path. There we go. And deploy on save. Nice. So when we save them, it's automatically going to try and refresh and deploy them for us. It used to be really obnoxious, so Tomcat doesn't pick things up, or it didn't used to pick things up. You used to have to go update all the files, so NetBeans does a lot of the hard work for us. If you wanted to manually deploy something to NetBeans, you have to go and edit all those web config files, web XML files, add in the packages and things. Right? It's got all of the pieces here are just little jars that get packaged up, and it knows how to go run those. And you can see them all, like in their example one, they've got a bunch of examples that you can see. So it has this web.inf folder with a web XML. And they have some examples in here. So if you go to, where is it? That's our parameters, filters, here we go. So you can go to a servlet to JSP, is the servlet here. And then if we have a servlet mapping, where's my servlet to JSP? We'll run the servlet to JSP servlet, which finds the servlet to JSP class. So there should be a hello world example. So if we go back to our Tomcat and just go to the root here, and we go to examples, this is the examples. The JSP examples here gives you a bunch of, hey, this is things you can do with JSP, which is really cool. The servlet examples, right? A hello world, you can look at the source, you can actually execute it. This is the hello world servlet itself, or we can go look at the source code for it. So we got a lot of really cool built-in options here. You can look at the request info and all the stuff that's coming along with the requests. You can set cookies, you got parameters, they've got some fun other options in here. The servlets themselves are great, but we do more things with JSP. Look at that, some arithmetic. Java's so smart. And again, we'll get more to JSP a little bit later, but it's mostly Java code with kind of like the PHP, right? You have some special tags that mean things here. So all of this should be loaded when you started up Tomcat in all those examples there. We okay so far? Got a lot of just getting it up and running. Let me grab my book here, make sure we're not missing anything important. All right. Very cool. Yeah, so chapter 3 is all about using NetBeans and Tomcat, how they connect together, ways you can add in files and things. So you can have just plain HTML files as well. They don't have to be JSP files. If you want just a purely static HTML file, you got lots of options there. All right. We had our servlet, the web XML file. You can do the mapping. Using Git. Right. Okay, so sure, let's play with that. Let's do this obnoxious thing here. So we'll add a form here then to do a quick little let's send some data here. So out.println, I have a form. Its action is going to be to hello world Java, and its method equals get. Okay. Oops. Where did I not end my... There we go. End it there. And then we want to go and add a input here. So out.println, add an input, type equals text. And we need all of these in quotes, don't we? Text. And name is, we'll just say parameter. Sure. Parameter. Okay. And then we need to submit. Oh, goodness. Where's my submit? There we go. I much prefer to copy paste things. Submit. I think we can do the single quotes for these. Let's try it. We'll see if it's totally off or not. Value is submit. Okay, and we'll go back and refresh page, go to the hello world servlet here. Here's our little text box. Submit. And we see the parameter gets passed through. Awesome. So now we can go back, we can add in that parameter then. We can say, so if my request.get query string does not equal nothing, as long as I have one here, oops, maybe I shouldn't compare strings that way, equals, if it's not, how about that, is not is empty. There we go. Do some proper string checking here. Get out.println, query string, request query string. Here we go. So we can push it through. If we give it nothing, we still get a parameter equals, right? Because that one's not blank. When I hit the page originally, nothing's there. So we have to wait until there's a query string in here. Doesn't mean there's a value for it, but it means that it's there. Okay, the other thing you can do, because this is a little bit obnoxious to get individual, right, get the entire query string. Often we do one request at a time, right? So we're going to use request.getParameter. And what do we want to call it? Well, the parameter name here is parameter. So now we can check that one if that parameter, if it's not empty, then we can give it the parameter passed, getting the parameter out. Uh-oh, did I spell it wrong? Parameter? I probably spelled it wrong. No, get parameter. Uh-oh. If it's not empty, she'll spit it out. Uh-oh. Oh, that's right. It's not compiling. One more curly brace. Parenthesis. There we go. Hello world servlet. There we go. So the parameter passed is here. So that's the easier way to get parameters out. Right, individual parameters by name here with the get parameter. All right. All right, so if we wanted to forward them to a JSP instead, right, you can either redirect or you can forward. And like we were doing with our, we can header in PHP, we'll just send a brand new request, or we can just include All right, so we're going to grab our string for the URL to include. We'll just call that the index.jsp. And then we're going to take our get servlet context. And then you call get request dispatcher. Oh my goodness. Given the URL, and then we're going to forward the request and the response to that page. So if we want to send them to the index.jsp page, right, and forward the request there to include that in the response. We can do that here. Save. So now I'm still hitting the servlet, but what I'm getting is the JSP. So just like we were able to include, so forwarding the request is going to send them the response that the JSP is going to write to as well. So then this one could go look for parameters in here. And we can write, again, not really getting into JSPs yet, but we can do slightly more interesting stuff, right? Excuse me. Let's see. Yeah, that one's all not very interesting. Okay, that's fine. We'll do it real quick in the JSP, just for fun here. So to start a Java block, it's inside of these %sign braces here. Okay, so we can say request.getParameter. And we can do the exact same stuff we did here, parameter. And we can say if request.getParameter it is empty? Nope. Parameter. My goodness. Get parameter does not equal null. So if it's not null or dot, there we go, is empty. No, is empty. If it's not empty, then we can do something. Well, what do we want to do? We can spit out. So we're going to actually end that curly brace, or end the code block there. And we're going to start a new one down here with that ending curly brace. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to have, how about a new paragraph? And we'll say, here's your parameter. Parameter is equal to, or colon, right? And then one more here. we can send parameter in. Nope. Get parameter. Semicolon. So we're going to send it over to the JSP. Nope, I didn't get the parameter out. Parameter equals. No, oh, sorry, I got to save it here. So inside of this here. So we're going to say, here's my string parameter. Is equal to this thing here. And if it's not empty, then do this thing, and we will just output the variable. I want to throw that out into, there we go. This is sort of like the echo. We just use percent equals. Again, we'll talk more about it, sorry, next week. I want to just show you real quick how you can get values out, because if you want to use JSP for the project, it'll make life a whole lot prettier for you. I think the JSPs are at least a little prettier. So we can get the parameters out. All right, we'll get all to that in chapter 6, but just a quick little, here's your JSP, how we get that one working. All right, so what we want to do is we're going to build a quick little form here. And you can do it in JSP. You can have a static page, any way you want to do it. We'll do it all in the servlet, totally up to you. Let's talk about the next project. Yeah, I don't think I made any changes there. Come on. Yes, discard my changes. I clicked the wrong button. So for project 4, and this one, we've got the midterm on the 15th, so not until the 22nd here at 6 p.m. This one's not going to be quite as big here, so just 20 points again. Project 4 in projects, there we go. We're going to write a Java servlet application that allows you to convert recipes. So we're going to build a little recipe converter from the original what is it, quantities to other quantities. So when you look at a recipe, like the truck stop buttermilk pancakes that I like to make for my family, this one is probably more pancakes than you folks need, because this is 12 servings of pancakes. So when I feed my 6 kids, myself and my wife, pancakes for breakfast, we actually go through all of these, because the kids love pancakes. I mean, it probably is 12 actual servings, but, you know, like my 13-year-old eats more than I do. More than I does. I can't English. So what you might want to do is change the size here. You might want to reduce this, or if it's a small recipe, like when I usually find regular recipes and I need to double it all the time, I'm going to be able to double the recipe. So we're going to look for our values here. Right? We need to write a Java class that represents the recipe, and we need to be able to double the values. So you can add in your own classes here. We can have classes. Right? We can add a new Java class here we'll just call ours, we were doing student before, right? So how do we do student? So we'll do a student class. Where's my... That's fine. So we'll have a private string for name. And how about a private char for grade? And we'll add our constructor. And we'll add gets and sets. Gets and sets. Cool. And we'll come back in here. We'll change this here. So instead of just the parameters here, maybe we want a name and then maybe a grade. Submit. And then we can go and check for, right, and make objects, which are really cool, out of these values. So we'll forget the JSP thing for a minute. Or we can keep it there. So if name is not empty, right, and grade is not empty, we're going to make a new student. Student, new student, equals a new student, given name and grade. Okay, so maybe we need to save those. So string for name is this, and string for char for grade. Let's just do that as a string, because that'll make life easier for us. We just do it as a string. New student, given name and grade. I'm going to be upset because we don't. We want that to be a string. So we want to refactor. Want to, where's my change type? Not rename. No, why don't I see it? That's fine. Let's do it as string. We can copy paste. There, a couple places there. Okay, so we can make a new student. Okay, once we've got a student, we can add that as an attribute, which is really cool. So we're going to make a attribute here. Why does it not? Oh, semicolon. There we go. So we're going to take our request, and we're going to call set attribute. We're going to call this the student attribute. We're going to attach the new student. So when we want to go get values, then we can get this student attribute out in our code later on, which is really cool. And probably do some validation, that sort of thing, but that's okay. So then in our servlet, or our JSP, right, we want to, instead of getting these parameters here, to request a get attribute of student. This will be my student. Student equals request.getAttribute student. I'm in a different package here. Hang on, that is, yeah, add our import for student. There we go. So it adds an import so we can use the student class. And if student is not equal null, oops, not a closing brace there. Then we want to go and get our values back out. Oh, why is it unhappy here? It's a type of student. Cast it as a student here. And if the student's not null, then we can have name student.getName. And we can have grade. Get grade. Okay, so we'll come back to our servlets. Oops, we probably need to title those better, right? So I have some labels in here. So I have a label name, and then a label grade. All right, so Eric, grade A. We get name, grade, out in the servlet. So we can use Java classes and pass them around. We can do this cool setting of attributes. So we can, in our little code blocks here, we can go get those back out. Just some fun ways of passing around data, right? So we're going to have a recipe, write a pass for recipe that is a list of ingredients. The ingredient class has attributes for, we're going to have quantity, the measure, and the name. So like the quantity would be like 2, the measure might be cups, and the name might be flour. So 2 cups of flour, right? So like how many, this will be, cups, ounces, I don't know, what else do you want to call it, pounds, just anything like that, right? So the recipe is just that list of ingredients here. And then the servlet will allow you to, we're going to add a drop-down list, right? So add an option list to be able to make a recipe 1/4, 1/2, 1, 2, 3, and we'll even say 4 times as much, right? The original measures or quantities. So don't feel like you need to convert measures, right? I know that 4 cups makes a quart. It doesn't need to be that smart, okay? It needs to be able to convert whatever it has. So we need to be able to give it a recipe, right, and do some conversion. So you want to have a default recipe to work with, right? So make a basic default recipe that you can use. Don't worry about trying to add new ones or anything like that. Just work with a single recipe. Single recipe that is hard-coded. Right? It'd be nice if we could have all sorts of other ways to enter these or whatever, but that's fine. It's beyond what we need to do here. Okay? And you need that GitHub link. Give me a second. Classroom link to turn in your code. Give me a second. CIS 24, 54, 21, 4. 54 template. There we go. All right, here's our link for it. There we go. So please submit the URL to your feedback. Pull request along a self-assessment using the rubric. Okay, and then let me add in the rubric here. This is for project 4. If it's missing or complete. So we'll do 5 points each there. So the recipe and ingredient classes. So these are just basic Java classes. Yeah, the default submit there, I'm sorry, is file. And if I forget to change it to just a text submission, it wants a file. And then once somebody submits, I can't change it because it's stuck. The servlet displays the default recipe. We'll do recipe class. Let's do that. The ingredient class, default recipe, and then servlet allows for changing the quantity, the recipe by 1/4, 1/2, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you just use the recipe class and you just have an ingredient class and you show it all in a single servlet and you don't actually do any of the doubling, quantity changing stuff, you can still get a bunch of points. And I want this one to be relatively straightforward for you folks. Okay, and if you want to work with a partner, go for it. The final project's coming up, so you want to get used to working with somebody, that's great. So if you want to work with a partner, you can. Partner, you may. But I need both partners to submit individually to L2 or Git for grading. So if you don't submit anything, D2L doesn't tell me to go grade it for you. And as you can tell, I'm terrible at grading. Apologize for that. I'll be working on getting caught back up. It's been a rough June, to be honest. So if you want to work with somebody, great. Collaborate as close as you want. We should be good here. So this is a text submission now. Yep, that should be good instead of a file submission. We got 3 weeks for this one to build a little recipe changer. So it should work for any recipe that you give it, right? Because we can loop through the recipe and get all the ingredients out, loop through every ingredient to do that sort of thing. But you only need to have one coded into your program. Right? We can go get other recipes later and import them, export them, do whatever we want, right? Look, there's a local offer on sugar. I can get a deal on sugar at Kroger. How exciting is that? That's what we need to do, is add advertising, right? Yeah, these pancakes are amazing. Buttermilk pancakes, fantastic. And the recipe is actually really easy because everything is 5 except for the milk and the butter. And I just do 5 tablespoons of butter to make it easy. I don't know why it's 5.5 cups of milk, or 1.5 cups of milk, but that's okay. I feel like that's actually, oh no, because there's buttermilk then. 5 cups of buttermilk, that's right. And a little extra milk. All right. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns on servlets? Again, we're just getting into it here. If you don't want to use the JSP, you don't have to at all. If you want to use the JSP, go for it. We'll talk more about it next week and easy ways to use the Java server pages, but you can do it all with a servlet if you want. Right? Nothing has to be done with the JSP. You don't have to do any of this forwarding if you don't want to. It's just, that's fun if you do. And notice we're not getting any of these other, we're not getting the form when we send it to the JSP. Right, once you forward the request, right, this out print line is not being used. Right, so we can't mix and match. We can't add some things here and then send it to the JSP and have both, which is a little funny. Where you could with PHP, you could have stuff and then you can include pieces that way. There's not typically any extra credit in the course Soul. You know what? Okay, I'll offer, when we present the final projects, we'll take a vote on which one we thought was best, and the best final project can get some extra points. How about that? As we are coming up close to thinking about final projects here. Right, we've got this one, we got another week here with Java server pages, some object-oriented review. We'll do our midterm, finish out servlets, talk a little bit about sessions and cookies, to do anything login stuff that we need to, a little bit of extra DOM, AJAX frameworks for some notes, and then we'll present our final projects on Zoom that last week on 8/19, okay? All right, folks, it's been fun. Sorry for the technical trouble earlier. I don't know what was going on with that. It's pretty crazy here. Let's see if we can send a write-off somebody's way, and we can get out to get some practice done and work on the projects. Put this here as my ending screen. There we go. And we'll send you off somewhere fun. You want to do psychology? I think we've dropped down on there. We could do some woodcraft, paleontologizing. There's chess. I don't know. What sounds fun? Also news, if you want to go check out touring news. There's a lot of really good news on Twitch. It's just kind of cool. And nothing, no tech that I see online. I don't follow enough people for that, I think. Ooh, Site Queen's talking about some interesting stuff. We'll head over there for fun. All right, folks. Take care. Let me know what I can do to help. I've got office hours. So the 5th of July is technically an observed holiday. I'm still planning on having office hours. So if you want to meet Monday, that's cool. If not, Wednesday as well. And we can go from there. Take care.